Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk with our grant coordinators and resellers, in other words, our distribution partners, to talk about tools, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. So, we're going to start by having a brief discussion on the relaunch of the credit and funding program, what it is, how it works, how clients benefit, how you could benefit. We'll make sure that you understand the process, which is a little bit different now, and then we'll conclude with Q&A, anything that you'd like to discuss that's relevant to this topic, or as a reseller slash grant coordinator, if you have other things that you need to vet through, we'll do that here at the end. So a little bit of a busy screen. We have a real case study that we're going to go through for someone that has gone through the credit and funding. We're going to go through what the credit and funding agreement looks like now, which will provide you an editable version. You can put your information on it, change pricing. We'll get to that in a moment. And then we have our notes screen here. So again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, type it into the Q&A. So first of all, let's understand what credit and funding is. So this is a separate and distinct program, and we'll start by categorizing it as a consumer program. This has nothing to do with starting a business. This has nothing to do with growing a business. This has nothing to do with business funding. This is on the consumer side. So you might ask, well, why are we talking about it then? Well, a number of you have asked us to bring something to the marketplace that's just simple, doesn't require the setup, the management, the operation of a business. So this is the other side of the coin on the consumer side. It does include, as the name suggests, building credit and getting funding, but it's going to be personal funding. As soon as we open the door for business funding, now there's other criteria, other credibility factors. So, of course, we're continuing to do our other programming with the shelf corporations leading the way, but we want to add another arrow to your quiver. I know when I was first getting started, I would go out to apartment complexes and churches and community centers. I would teach on credit and I would enroll them. It was an earlier iteration of this, but I had about a 95% enrollment rate. So this is great to help people and for you to make money. But let's go ahead and get into agenda item number one. What's in it for the client? So quite simply, why a client would want to enroll in the credit and funding is to have better credit, resulting in more purchasing power. Maybe that sounds kind of fancier or unnecessarily complicated, but people usually don't care about credit in itself, although I guess you could argue it's a reflection of your credibility, but it's what you can do with your credit. I can buy a home, I can buy a car, I can take a trip, so forth. So different people have different utility that they're trying to fulfill with credit, but the credit and funding is a more holistic approach whereby we're addressing all of the variables that impact our purchasing, or what we'll call our financing capabilities. So we can scroll down a bit here on the flyer and dig into that some. What's included? Let's move this case study over here, which we're going to get to. And I know, people look at this and it's like 778. That's not a big deal. I have an 820 credit score, and I know some of you are not impressed with this, but it does show where we've taken someone through the process. We get a near immediate bump, but when we're adding new positive trade lines, which we'll talk about in a moment, it's getting some aging to those. But let's talk about what's in the credit and funding program, because right now we're on agenda item one. What's in it for the client? Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, type it into the Q&A and we'll address it. So the first element that's included is what we call credit sweep. Credit sweep is a way of describing the removal of negative items by using a legal approach, using a legal team. It is not considered credit repair. There's lots of credit repair programs out there that are frankly simpler than this. So if someone just wants credit repair, I don't think this is the right option for them because this is credit and funding. So the first element that's listed here, just think of it as the removal of negative items. Removal of applicable negative items. And I think that makes sense. Okay, so then let's move on to the second. We're also going to add new trade lines, and that's where a lot of credit unquote credit programs fail is they think, oh, if I just took all the negatives off, great, I'll have plenty of purchasing power. I'll have plenty of ability to go finance things. That's not true. We need to have the absence of negative and the presence of positive, and that's why we're seeing the increase as those new trade lines are posting out. So that would be the second item. So the first item was removal of negative, and the next would be addition of new trade lines. Now, is that enough? If you and I just went out to the marketplace and said, we've got this great program through a 501c3 nonprofit to remove negative and add positive trade lines, is that going to accomplish what most people want? No, it's not. We're also going to have to make sure on the third item here that we're able to provide verifiable income. Now, there are a few exceptions where lenders or underwriting doesn't look at the verification of income. There are some exceptions, but in general, if what we're trying to do is get a larger amount, we need to legally and ethically cover all bases. So we do need to remove negative that are applicable. We need to add new positive trade lines if the client doesn't have a strong profile. But we also need to have good, verifiable W-2 income, and we produce that legally and ethically for them. And then the third would be the collateral, and we've all heard about collateral before because that's relevant on the business side as well. So everything we're talking about here is on the personal side. We're not talking about business credit in this discussion. We're talking about personal credit. So let me pause for a moment and see if there are any questions that any of you have regarding the deliverables, what's included that makes it a good deal for the client. Yes, we'll get to pricing and all that, and frankly, you'll control pricing, but we'll get to pricing. Don't worry about pricing. Let's talk about content. Prelo asked a good question. So it is fine that some clients won't need all these elements. So it's packaged. So you might have someone that says, well, I got plenty of collateral. I don't need that. Well, fine. Then we won't worry about that. Or I've already got my income verified and it's fine. Well, great. So this is the package deal and everything's available. But if they don't want to participate or they don't need to participate in any of the four elements, same program, same contract, same pricing. It's just, of course, we could skip it. Like when you go to the Golden Corral buffet, and if you don't want the cherry cheesecake, you don't have to eat the cherry cheesecake, but they don't change the price. Make sense, Prelo? Good question, though. Okay. Because what we're doing is we're guaranteeing, let's go ahead and add that, we're guaranteeing results. And we went through, just so you know, guaranteed results. We went through an FTC audit a couple years ago, Federal Trade Commission audit. Smart people, motivated people, not always nice people, but they looked at how our model is set up and deemed it legal and ethical and compliant. So the way that we do this, it's real, and we're able to legally, let's go ahead and add that adjective, we legally guarantee results. And so that's mentioned on the flyer, that's mentioned in the contract, which we've not got down to. So this is much different, right? Most people that go into some sort of credit, unquote, credit program, they're gambling, right? And they're hoping that it works out. They're praying that it works out, often from some pitch that sounds too fucking good to be true. So one of the first things that we would encourage you to do is if you want to be a reseller, which there's no cost to be, for the credit and funding program, go through it yourself. I went through it. This is my snapshot from this morning. I got up at 4:35, made a pot of coffee, checked so I'd be ready for today's discussion. So this is my personal history over the past 6 months going through this process. Nothing to brag about, and it's kind of embarrassing in the beginning. You look back in October, I was barely at 700. And I know to a lot of you, if you knew that, you would discredit me. But I followed this process, and what did I do? I was able to bump it up once I got those positive trade lines hitting. And then as of today, as of this morning, updated 3/3/2025. Well, I guess that was yesterday, wouldn't it? I was at a 778. I assume it's the same today. We would encourage you. I mean, if you're a consumer and you're looking at someone to help you with credit, ask them to look at their fucking credit scores. I'm amazed by how many people that go out and say, oh, I can help you improve your credit, but they have shit credit. I mean, they're in the 600s or even lower. Why would you why would you do that? Why would you, forgive me, why would you trust someone with something that's so measurable if they can't even live the story that they're pitching? So is this impressive? Not at all. I mean, if this was impressive, I'd be above 800. I'm not. Maybe I should be embarrassed. But it's credible and it shows the program works. Now, different people will have different starting points. I realize that. And I guess I could have gone back earlier, but this is accurate as of, I thought this morning, this is as of yesterday. Okay, so I think we've got a pretty good snapshot of who it's for. It's for individuals that want better credit, better financing abilities to finance whatever it is that they want to finance. It's not business oriented. It doesn't require them to have a business, doesn't require them to get a business. Now, can it complement business owners? Sure, because a credible business owner is better than a non-credible business owner, but it's not related to business. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and move on then next to what's in it for you. Well, first we got a question, and Corinthian brings up a great point, and it's a little bit complicated, but she thinks at a higher level than a lot of us. So what's true is a little bit perverse. So what's true is that the stronger your credit profile is, the less reliant most, but not all, lenders are in verifying your income, because they figure, man, if you're taking care of your financial affairs, we trust you. Have you ever seen that? If you've ever had a client that had a low credit score, they tend to jump through more hoops to get approvals than clients that have a good credit score, because there's underwriting algorithms, and it's a trust level. Someone that has paid their bills consistently in the past are perceived to be more trustworthy. Therefore, what they might put down on their application is often assumed to be correct, where someone that's not paid their bills on time are often perceived to be riskier. That's a great point. So there's just lots of inherent benefits of having a strong credit profile, legally and ethically. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the second of the three topics. What's in it for you? Well, our approach for our resellers and grant coordinators is you determine pricing. And so what that means is you determine how much you make. Now, so of course, we got to go into pricing, but that's the biggest benefit for you is you're in control. Also, it provides a consumer grade offering. So what we do with the accelerator and with the shelf corps is all business, 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 and that's great. Businesses can borrow more money than individuals, and business can have its own credit. But some of you have just expressed a real interest in having something where you can just work in the consumer marketplace. The challenge, though, is you may not find people as easily with bad credit as you can find people that are wanting to start a business. You know, the average credit score in the United States, according to Experian, is a 714. So they're already higher than where I was when I started. So if you have someone that's at a 714, they may not be as likely to want to enroll, because the average American doesn't need this. The average American has a 700 plus credit score. But if you look long and hard, you'll be able to find people with shitty credit. And the people with shitty credit are obviously being impacted and have limited financing abilities, so we can help anyone. We wouldn't screen them out. We'll go through the process in a moment, but you're right. It's great to be able to help consumers, but you may have to look a little harder to find people with bad credit, because again, the average person has good credit, but not everyone has good credit. All right, so let's dig into the pricing a little bit. So there's two elements of pricing. So instead of, and you can see this, pay after funding. So that's what's nice. In this agreement, we're attaching the credit, well, we're attaching the deliverables, which include credit resources, and the funding. So it's not two separate agreements. Like when you buy Shelf Corp, you buy a Shelf Corp, and then separately, then you go into the funding process. These two are adjoined, they're connected. So the clients are actually paying off of the performance fee. So there is normally a 10% performance, I can spell it, fee that is split 50-50. However, you have the ability, if you want to increase that performance fee, you can make it higher, you can make it lower. Now, we need 5 points to cover our costs. So when we say 50-50 split, if you leave it at 10%, then it's great. You're making 5 points and we're making 5 points. But if you wanted to charge the clients more, then you could charge more, but it's still split 50-50. But the minimum to us is 5%. So technically, you could mark it all the way down to 5%, but that would cut out anything for you. That probably wouldn't be real smart, but maybe you want to give a brother-in-law discount or what have you. Okay, there's also a refundable deposit. The refundable deposit is also determined by you, how much you want to charge the participant. And you might say, well, why do we even need to charge a refundable deposit? Let's just get rid of that. Let's just get paid later. Well, no offense, but these are people that often haven't paid their bills on time. And if you don't get some skin in the game from them, just because we all of a sudden make them look really credible on paper, does that mean that they're really likely to pay you if they don't have skin in the game? So with that, we do have a refundable deposit. We also need a refundable deposit because we have to pay the legal team that's providing a lot of these services. We're doing all the fulfillment. Now, Michael says he does credit on his own. And that's right, Michael. A lot of you already have a solution and you do this yourself. And so continue to do it yourself. We're not here to compete with any of you. I was almost hesitant to bring this to you because a lot of you have credit expertise. A lot of you have credit scores that puts mine to shame. A lot of you have the ability to do the same thing, and that's fine. We're not here to compete with you. But if you don't have that arrow in your quiver, I think it makes sense. So there is a refundable deposit. You're going to determine what that is. It's important to have skin in the game, but also we need to be able to pay the legal team that's doing a lot of the work. But that's refundable. So it comes back to them, and it's all in this contract. We get the full contract, and we'll send you an editable version. So they get the refundable deposit back as long as they go through and work with us to raise at least 100,000. So it's a bilateral promise. We're promising to get them at least 100,000, and it could be in whatever structure they want. Maybe they want a line of credit. Maybe they want a term loan. Maybe they want credit cards. Maybe they want other things. So we'll work with them on what constructs the 100,000. So they're in control. We don't get a power of attorney to pretend to be them and get them financing they don't want. But the bottom line is, as long as they'll follow through, because we want to track 6-month results. Will it take 6 months? No, I'm showing you a true example. This is, again, my example. Normally, we can start to see some improvement in 30 days. However, typically the bigger bump hits in the 60th day, in the second month. All right, so 2 components of client pricing. There is a refundable deposit. You're able to pick what that is. There is a performance fee. You're able to pick what that is. We do split it 50-50. There's a floor we need at least 5 points on. All right, so we've covered agenda item 1, what's in the credit and funding program for clients. We've talked about what's in it for you. I want to pause for a moment and ask for your feedback. And I'm thick-skinned, and if you say, "Hey, this is a waste of our time," there's already this resource out there, but I don't think that there is with our approach. But what's your feedback? Do you see a need for this in the marketplace? Jason, we have 642 of you on, but Rod, Russell, Ryan, again, 642 of you, but what's your feedback? Do you see a need for this in the marketplace? And if you don't, it may be that when you're at the country club having your lobster bisque, you're just not around the people that's the target audience. I've seen a lot of people that have good income, good pay, but shitty credit. And then, of course, there's some people that have both money and credit issues. You know, sometimes we joke about some people need credit repair, which is not what we do, but some people need credit repair. Some people need money repair. And we're actually addressing that. And we see that some with your clients that come in for the Shelf Corp. Sometimes their credit score is decent, but they're not getting the offers you would expect. And often it's because there's an issue with their profile. In the underwriting world, it's rarely just about a credit score. It's usually not. It's about the profile. It's about the profile. So we know when we're adding trade lines that a good profile has 3 to 5 revolving accounts, has at least one installment account. But once you start following this pattern, it works. It works. And so you can improve the client's access to housing. They can go buy a home. They can get better cars, better transportation, get their kids in better schools, qualify for better jobs, get lower interest rates. But you know, the utility of credit's up to them. This isn't about you. It's about what they want. Okay, Prelo's calling me out, and I appreciate that. He says there's lots of companies that do the same thing. Prelo, can you name one? And we'll do a quick look together because my experience, because we're charging the upfront is a refundable deposit, so they're getting that back. So the only thing they're really paying is the performance fee, which you're determining, and it can be as low as 5%. So Prelo, can you objectively, not trying to call you out, not being defensive, but can you name one company that offers this scope of services with the type of pricing model that we have that allows the reps, the resellers to make as much? I'm curious if you can name one. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about the process. So, from a process perspective, the first thing, and you're not going to like this. And so there's always this balance of what do we do so you're happy versus what works best. The first thing that we're going to need to do is a soft pull for the prospect. Now, this is another element of credibility. We have gone through the underwriting, so we are set up internally to do a soft pull. I always get a kick out of when you go to some credit resource and they say, "Hey, give me your login for Smart Credit," or "Give me your login for Identity IQ." It's like, what the fuck? You're a professional in the credit program, but you don't have either good credit or you don't have the ability to do your own soft pulls. You've not gone through the credentialing with Experian, Equifax, and/or Experian to do a soft pull. To me, that's a red flag. Two red flags we've covered, right? Someone trying to pitch you on credit that's got shitty credit, I'd worry about that. Someone that's trying to pitch you on a credit process and they've not gone through where they can do their own soft pulls. So we do our own soft pulls. We had to do background checks, the site inspection. So that's the first thing that we're going to ask the client, prospective client, to do is we want to do a soft pull and confirm that we can help them. So there's a variety of things that we're going to look at, but we'll work with you. If you want to be a reseller, which costs you nothing, on the credit and funding program, you'll have a link, and that'll be the first thing that we need to do. We want to make sure that we can help them. We don't want people to enroll that we can't help. So you'll have a link, and that will be a true soft pull, not a hard pull. Second, then contract. You will get them under contract. You're a reseller, you'll have an editable version of this flyer and of the credit and funding agreement, And at the bottom, they'll sign it, but at the bottom, this will be your information because you're a reseller, and that gives you the ability to control the pricing. So that is the second step in the process. So I know this first step is a bit inconvenient, but we want to look at the client and make sure that we can help them. We need to see what's going on there. All right, so then we get the contract, and again, you'll have an editable version of the contract. You'll determine what the deposit is. You'll determine what the performance fee is. We split it 50-50, but there is a floor. We need at least 5%. So and Toyley's bringing this up, so I'll add that. So what are key credibility criteria for someone who is looking, a cap lock, looking for credit assistance? We've covered it, but Toyley wanted me to bring it up again. So first is ask them what their credit score is. And again, I know a lot of you have a lot better scores than me, so I'm not here to compete with you. But if they don't have a reasonable credit score, is that the person that you want to be counting on improving your credit or their credit? I don't think so. And the second is I would certainly check to see if they're licensed, bonded, and insured. We are. So you can feel comfort in that. The third is, do they have soft pull capabilities internally? Well, we have lenders that come to us that want us to send clients to them, but they want us to send them the client's credit report. And it's like, wait, you don't even have, because that's usually they're just a broker. They're usually a middleman. It's like, wait, you're in this industry and you've not even gone through the background check to be able to do soft pulls directly for your clients. So thank you, Toyley. I think these are three, it's a great checklist. And frankly, it's probably a great way for you to beat out alternatives that that prospects are considering, because a lot of people that are pitching credit have shitty credit. A lot of people that are pitching credit are not licensed, bonded, and insured the way we are. And a lot of them, that should have been a question mark, haven't even gone through the credibility confirmation to be able to do soft pulls directly from the bureaus. All right. Any questions on credit and funding? So if you're interested in being a reseller for credit and funding, there's no contract you have to sign, no money you have to pay. There's a intake here on 509 Pacific. If you already are a reseller or grant coordinator, but you want to add this arrow to your quiver, go ahead and go back to that form and add in a note that you're wanting to get set up on the credit and funding. Again, no cost. You don't have to participate. There's no strings attached. But we realize that a number of you want to focus just on the business side, not on the consumer side. Okay, so what questions do any of you, and you can always call Madison as well, but this is the specific step. So anyone have questions, comments, concerns on credit and funding, what it is, why it is, how it works, a reasonable time frame to expect? We have a legal and ethical approach. And so I know people are going to come to you, and the first thing they'll probably ask is cost. And they ask cost because they really don't know how to measure anything else. So you'll want to educate them. Well, here's what it takes to have a good credit profile, to have good funding of capabilities: the absence of negative, the presence of positive, good documentable income, and collateral. So we provide all four of those things. Secondly, the second question they'll probably ask, like a number of you have, how long does it take? Everybody wants better credit in about 36 seconds, right? If it takes more than a minute or two, oh, it's a scam. Well, we've got to follow legal models. And technically, the model that we use requires the derogatory item to be removed in 4 days, FOUR. That's by federal law, by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. But that doesn't happen instantly, right? We have to get the client uploaded. We have to get the documents drawn up. We have to get them into the bureaus. So this is a reasonable curve. Should we see some improvement in the first 30 days? We should. Could it be more? Could it be less? Sure. According to the FTC audit we had, one of the things that we did well that kept us compliant is we don't guarantee certain credit scores. You can get into really hot water when you guarantee specific credit scores because there's algorithms that are beyond our control that could be considered fraudulent or misleading to the customer. So no, we do not guarantee a specific credit score for a couple reasons. A, to remain compliant, and B, it has a lot to do with the client. But what we can guarantee, and we do guarantee, is a funding outcome. That as long as they work with us, they enroll, they participate, we'll get them at least 100,000 based on what they want. And again, that could be revolving or installment. It's not forcing types of funding on them they don't want, but we can guarantee financial outcomes, but we can't be compliant and guarantee credit outcomes. So normal curve is some improvement in the first 30 days and the bigger boost. Now, the lower the starting point, the bigger the boost, right? You have someone in the 600s, they're going to have more of a 45-degree angle. You get someone down in the 500 credit scores, it's going to be more of what would that be, 120-degree angle. So the worse the starting point, of course, the more dramatic the results. But we can even take individuals and still get them on ballpark of 100 or so points. Not by magic, not by misleading or lying or cheating, just simply by following these 4 elements. All right, with that being said, any other questions related or unrelated that we need to cover today? I know we have a couple resellers that had asked for some clarification on other topics, but I don't see those questions popping up. So maybe they didn't show up, or maybe I distracted them with this. So anyway, if you want to be a reseller for credit and funding, no cost, no contract to sign, go to 509, put in a note. We'll get you the flyer, which you can edit so you have your call to action, the agreement, which you'll take our information out, put your information in, and then you'll be able to get clients signed up real easily, and you'll be able to pick the pricing. All right, thanks everyone. Let us know if you need anything. Madison's always available to chat with you. Have a good day. See you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.